doing extremely well. This 28th Sunday, the 28th of this. I can't believe how quick this month has gone. Christmas is pretty well. Christmas is over. I still say that this is the Christmas period. Christmas for me is only really finished basically on the 1st of Jan, which is fast approaching. So look, I hope you're doing extremely well. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and the new year is approaching. I genuinely can't believe how quick this year has gone already. So look, first thing to say is look, get into this amazing community, get into this chat. I'm going to say this is one of the best. This is the best chat on this platform. Get into it. The first thing we say is be respectful to the community. Be respectful to yourselves. Be respectful to me. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out and you will get banned. We don't like to do it, but we absolutely will. So look, just get in there with your chats, comments about anything that you've seen, transfers, the Newcastle game, which I will be talking about as well. And look, I know it's a win, but I do think there's things that need to be said on that. And I think Amrin will absolutely go back to where he has been. I'm not a dictator of this chat. The reason why these shows take so long is basically because I genuinely do read out all of your chats. I genuinely do read out your comments. You don't have to agree on things. I think sometimes it's better. And if I do come back or if I do read your comment, it may spark opinion. Doesn't mean that I think your opinion is wrong. All it basically means is, look, you've done well and you sparked off a conversation. Look, let me know how your Christmas has been. Let me know if you've got any plans for the new year. I don't have any plans, but look, let's get into it. So look, where I wanted to basically start off today is the things that I've seen going around today. I get sent stuff, and the spin merchants are off again this morning. Now, I wanted to give you some updates from Fabrizio. I'll give you my opinion on the Fabrizio stuff. Now, I know what tends to happen, and what I tend to do on here is, look, I don't do clickbait. I'm not going to come on and tell you one day that these players are going to come, and then the next day they're not going to come. I'm very, very consistent on here. I'm very, very consistent on my opinion. I'll give you my opinion. And look, today I get sent clips, all right, and I see clickbait stuff. And what we are getting again is we're getting a story comes out from Fabrizio, and you can see it. You can see the spin. You can absolutely see the spin ahead of the top. Now, I saw the Fabrizio stuff. And I could have jumped on this morning, started jumping on, telling you that Baleba's coming, taking a story, taking part of a story from Fabrizio. Because look, Fabrizio, whether we like it or not, when Fabrizio Romano talks, we listen. Because Fabrizio gets things from the club. Ornstein as well gets things from the club. So Fabrizio is the guy that you listen to, the guy gets stuff. So what then happens is that channels get stuff, and I've seen it. I've seen it this morning. I've seen the clickbait out there. So I just wanted to come on and look. I might be a miserable git, but look, it's something that I feel that I have to do, and what this channel does extremely well is that we talk about and we go through what we think the stories are and how true they are. And look, I go through it word for word. Bobby says, hello JB. Scott, yes JB, I hope you're doing it extremely well. I was on time today. I set a show for who's your favourite all-time player, says, I'm just going to call you Reap. Who is my all-time favourite player? Now, my all-time favourite player is probably not one that people expect, is Mark Hughes. And again, Cantona. Look, I think favourite players of all time are very, very personal. So Neab says Cristiano, the GOAT. I think favourite players are personal to you. I think this is a conversation, a conversation whereby there is no right answer. There is no right answer. So, Repo, Mark Hughes. Now, that goes to show me your age. And look, not to say that is a bad thing. Now, I've been supporting this club since 1988. Now, Mark Hughes is in my opinion, or for me, is a legend of this club. Mark Hughes, Sparky, was a striker. How long did he play for? I think on and off. I think he played probably for the best part of 8 years, maybe 9 years. So Hughes played for us, and then he went to Barcelona, and then he re-signed for us. And I think he left in 1996, I think. But being Welsh, Mark Hughes was a striker. He played for Wales as well. One of the first players that I saw. So for me, Hughes, I would say go and check Mark Hughes out. Not the most prolific scorer, but some of the things he did, some of the goals that he scored. I promise you, go out there, go and find videos of Sparky. Absolute tulip play. Hello, Spark. Tulip plays spot on. Absolute wonderful player. Strong. Just the guy was just a beast. Cristiano, the greatest player of all time, and it's true. As a manager, absolutely shocking. Rooney is my second. How long? Yeah. Hughes was a legend. Exactly. Mine is Rooney or CS7 or Robin van Persie. And this is the thing. Get it out. Have to check on. Look, Grace. In life, those are the immortal words. When I used to play, it was always the shout, "Get it out." Now, Grace, the thing about that is we have to say it every game. Is because the balls come into the box. Ridiculous. Sparky played 2 separate games in the same day. Delo is better than all them players. No JB, RVP, not VN. Yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you meant, my friend. So look, I wanted to get into the transfer stuff today. Now look, as I said at the top of the show, what we are going to get, and probably you guys are sick and tired of it. You've probably seen it all this morning. Let's do Dang, Xerxes, Kone trade and Roma ASAP. And look, I am going to go through that as well. I think there is Ruben Neves. Rude again. Rude was an amazing player. Again, absolute fantastic player. And Scott, look, as I say, there is no wrong answer, and Rude was an absolute legend as well. So So look, Fabrizio's been talking, and I think people are going to be fucking sick and tired. People are probably going to think that this is going to be another video where I'm going to start talking and giving you guys a load of crap chat shit about, Baleba's coming. Spoiler alert, Baleba is not coming. And I'll give you my reasons why. We'll go through what Fabrizio said, and we'll go through that. Smudge was a good player. He sure was. Grace said Alan Smith was my favourite player when he joined. Interesting opinion. Neves is the one to get, says Kevin. Neves says Cristiano, he scores with left, right foot. He scores header. He scores penalties, free kicks. And look, mate, I am not... Cristiano is a legend of this club. I'm not saying that Cristiano wasn't a legend. Cristiano is not my favourite player. Respect him. I think he's an absolute fabulous, wonderful, amazing player. This is not a debate on whether or not I think Cristiano. You don't have to justify Cristiano, we all know, probably one of the best players ever. He's just not my favourite player. What have we got on here? Neves Gallagher until his injury. Whose nickname was Smudge? Smudge was Alan Smith, wasn't it? Oh hey, you heard Semenyo isn't signing. Now I'll give you a quick update on that. So look, I did a show ages ago. Look, I've done shows, Peepo, on this, and again, let's quickly go. Look. This is going to be a long show today, so get in your opinions on the signings. Look, Semenyo hasn't been coming for the last week and a half. On here, we have been adamant. I've been adamant that basically that Semenyo, it isn't coming. Semenyo is never going to come to this club. City are trying to get this deal. Now, the interesting thing on Semenyo that I read is that United are still pushing. Now, look, I'm going to give you the news. I'll give you my opinion on it. Semenyo is not in the thumbnail. Look, he's going to go to City. City are trying to push this deal. But look, the reports out there to give some of you an inkling of light. I don't want Semenyo right now. I think he's a player that you get when you've got a finished team and you try to get him in there. Apparently, United are still in there. They're still pushing for the deal. But look, forget about it. Forget about it. Alan Smith would have been awesome if he didn't have. I watched that game. Bobby. I did. I watched that game. It was horrific. I watched that game live. Alan Smith. The fact that he came back and scored, I was so pleased for him. It was horrific. Favourite is completely personal. You can't say it's right. Exactly that. I completely agree with you. I think if your favourite player of all time is some Conference League striker, perfectly fine. He is signing for City because Amrin didn't want to play him as a winger. He wanted to play him as a wing back. That's not why Semenyo isn't signing. Don't be deluded. Is the reason why Semenyo is not coming to this club is because Semenyo wants to win things. Semenyo wants Champions League football. Now look, it's not guaranteed, but City are going to get there, right? Semenyo wants to play for a club who's guaranteed to win things, guaranteed to play the Champions League. Semenyo is not stupid. This is sadly where we are. Why is Semenyo going to want to play for a club that finished 15th last season? Inconsistent. City have found consistency. City are now in a title race. So look, let's not kid ourselves in this, right? We've been snubbed. We were never going to get him. I've been adamant on that for months. He was never coming. Danny says, JB, Danny, hello, I'm from Indonesia. I hope you're doing extremely best. First touch was Berbatov. Berbatov was unreal. Use the 65 mil on a CM. Forget Semenyo. Exactly. Some faith players could have been Bebe. They're still not wrong. It's their choice. Exactly. We could have called him Semenyo. Ronaldo, only player to win the Ballon d'Or. And Nayab, mate, look. Nayab, you need to get off that train. We all know Nayab was that Cristiano was an amazing player. It doesn't matter. He's your favourite player. He's not mine. We're not saying that he's not a legend. We're not saying that he's not the greatest player of all time. It's just sadly, he's not everyone's favourite. And most of the time, not everybody's favourite is the best player in the world. Fergie was great with his signings, but every now and then he'd have an absolute stinker. Look, one of my favourite players of all time is Paul Parker. I love Paul Parker. Again, one of the first players that I saw, one of the first players that that I just liked him. CL wasn't the only player to win the Ballon d'Or. Do you think Man United need right now in the wing transfer? No, we need a CM, and we'll go through that as well. So I think we need a centre midfielder. I also think that we need I'm going to say a second striker in terms of a bench option, but we'll see. Anderson was underrated. Look, Scott, Anderson for me had all the attributes to be a wonderful player. Injuries, I think, curtailed his career, but I agree with you. Neb says, how many United players win? Nayab, look, mate, you're arguing against yourselves. You're arguing against yourself here. You can't force Ronaldo to be people's favourite player. I'm not disputing. Look, let's just end this, right? Cristiano is your favourite player. Nobody in this chat, and I'm not arguing that he is the greatest player. I love him, but he's not my favourite player. Chipley says, I hope the Fletcher twins become as good as their old man because he was underrated. Agreed. Look, I think that we'll come on to the Newcastle game as well, and I think the positive for me from that game was they won. The Holy Trinity won the Ballon d'Or. Exactly. So look, let's get into the transfer window. Fabrizio Romano has been talking. I'm going to say from the start, we're not like everyone else. I'm not coming on here going to tell you a load of bollocks. So I've seen the statement was made. I'm not going to tell you who the channel was that made the statement, but the headline was, we're going to get some signings, and I get stuff sent to me all the time. And the intro was, the header was that a Baleba was coming in January, and then basically the first intro has been your optimism that we're going to get 2 signings, 1 signings, or no signings. All I'm going to say to that person, if you've watched that show, because I got sent the clip, make your fucking mind up. Set your stall out. Stop trying to cover every single fucking base. You'll either believe that we're going to get 2, 1, or none. I'm of the opinion that we're going to get none now, and I'll get on to that as well. Chipley says, yeah. I said, Whitwell have been talking as well. Yeah, I've seen all that, and I will bring that into it as well. I'm going to bring it all in. Joe Ross says Arsenal are better than United, and I support Arsenal. Caleb says, hi man, hello Caleb. Joe Ross, mate, yes, they are. Like it's the thing is, Joe, is that yes, it's one of those statements when you guys playing. We're playing Tuesday, I think it is. So we're playing on the 30th. So it's the 28th today. We're playing on the 30th. Look, it's a bit like saying, right, Joe. It's a bit like saying if you've got somebody who's 6'5" and somebody who's 5'7", the person who's 5'7" says to the person at 6'5", "Aren't you big?" Like, Arsenal are sitting at the top of the league. They're better than us. Like there is, I don't look. We don't mind the banter. We love the banter on here. My only observation about that comment, it's obvious, right? It doesn't mean anything. I agree with you, but as Scott says, shame Arsenal not going to win the league. As Bobby says, Arsenal are bottle jobs. You know, it says, I don't convince anyone you said Cristiano is not a legend. No. That's not. If you listen to me, what I said is I didn't say he's not a legend. I said I appreciate that he's a legend, but he's not everybody's legend. He's not, because we did a poll on here, and not every person thinks he is. I think he's a legend, but he's just not my legend. What I mean by that is he's a legend of the club. He's just not my favourite player. Kone Emcher, Edison, Neves, so many available in January. Then get the big one in summer like Anderson or Baleba. Arsenal's top of the table. They are. Man City might be on top within 2 games or so. I do agree. David says, Hajib, hope you had a great Christmas. All the best going into the new year. David, back at you, my friend, and I hope you're doing extremely well. I hope your Christmas was fantastic. Beeper says, I know it's too early to say, but who do you guys think is going to win the Prem? Mate. I seriously am starting to think. I think City. I've come back into it. I thought Arsenal. I thought getting that missing piece of a striker. Gyökeres is not exactly setting the world on fire. I think City, barring injuries, I think they're going to win the league. Messi or Cristiano. As I'll always say on here, Messi is a gift. You don't get players like him. He's a gift. Cristiano is the epitome of hard work. But I think Aston Villa will finish second because they're doing. Look, I like Villa. I think Villa remind me of Leicester City. I think the only thing with if Villa win the league, amazing stuff. Villa people. If you don't, depending on how far you go back, Villa used to be a giant, right? Still are a giant club, just a sleeping giant, right? Villa, I really hope they win the league. They remind me of a Leicester City. The difference is the league is very, very competitive, and I think if they were in another year, so if Aston Villa were in the same season, or it was the same season that Leicester won the league, I think Villa could win this league. I don't know. Nayab, mate, it's all good, my friend. So look, let's get into it. So basically, Fabrizio said this. Let me get on to this. I did put it down. So basically, Fabrizio said in terms of the January window, is this January move unlikely, but if the door is opened, United will basically try to sign him. Bayern are not working on a deal for him, and it's thought that a Baleba only wants to come to United. Now, people are running away with this. Baleba is not going to come, and I shall tell you my opinion on this. Get in your opinions if you think that we will do that deal. Tell me. Look, this is spin. People jump all over this. They'll put Fabrizio in the title and because they want you to click on it. If you listen to what Fabrizio says here, a January move is unlikely, but if Brighton open the door, United will be interested and try to sign him. Now, there are 2 things here. United are not going to sign him because Brighton are going to want £80 million. They've not set a price for the player on purpose. We know in and around the summer it was roughly about 105. But with his performances, I know they've dropped, and I know the performances haven't been particularly great. But the drop in performance is not going to be a substantial in terms of the Brighton club, the club. They're not going to drop him from 105 in their mind to 65 just yet. So Baleba for me is a deal that we're going to do in the summer window. Now look, again, I'll talk about my opinion on the finances as well. Tulip Play has actually commented on there and said we've got £65 million to spend, which I do agree with. I do think that we do have that. If you look at that from a factual perspective, we do. But I will give you a slight slant on that as well, because if you go and look at the finances it is all there. So I'll go to a financial perspective and I'll give you my opinion on that as well. But look, Brighton are not going to drop it down to an amount United will be comfortable to see this signing. Brighton are not going to drop this down to a level whereby United is going to sign him in this window now for 65. I think United probably value this player around 65 to 70 million. He's not coming. So you're going to hear this spin. You're going to hear channels. You're going to hear channels pushing this now. Semenyo is done. And look, I'm not going to spam you with this. I will come on and give you an update and give you my opinion. Can I adopt you, says Victor? You can try to. I don't think the wife and kids will be too happy. Well, they probably might be, but we'll see. So look, Baleba, and again, get in your opinions. I will read them out. I'll just get through this part. So look, if you think logically on this, and look, I know people want a signing. I know people are clambering onto this, and look, I want to be wrong, right? As I've said, my stance on this has always been, and I'm going to be consistent, and this is why I don't spam every day with the transfer stuff, because I'm of the opinion that it's not going to happen. I will be absolutely stunned if we do any business. I'm of the opinion it's going to be a loan signing, Gallagher, or nothing. Absolutely zero. And there is a story on him as well now where my mind is starting to slightly change on that as well because of Atletico's stance. But he's not signing. So if you look at the price right now, I think 80 million I think is too much. I think you wait till the end of the season. I think his season possibly may drop. Look, he's been playing at the AFCON and his performances have been better. And that's another reason. Victor says, I'm an Arsenal fan. Of course you are. No, Victor. Fans on here, it doesn't matter. Mate, we absolutely welcome rival fans. And look, you know, absolutely no issue at all. I like the opinions of different fans. I'm not necessarily going to answer Arsenal questions, but look, get in there. So if you look at the price, United are not going. I'm an anti-United fan, says serious part. So look, I'm not going to do the deal. I think the price is going to be too high. I don't think we want to play 80 million. I think we want to play closer to 65 plus 5 or 10. And that's where we are. Now, financially, let's look at financially. So, Tulip Play is absolutely right. So, PSR, which is old by the way, so it's now switched to the squad cost. So it doesn't really impact in terms of the next season, right? As we all know, the Glazers and Ineos are not going to put money into this. We've gone through that, so that we've gone through Sir Jim, Ineos, and the trouble that they were in. Sir Jim is not even prepared to put money into the business that he built. Was he going to put cash into here? Now, Tulip Play is absolutely right here. So if we're going to take in PSR right now, we lost £34 million. We can spend up to like 105, so that gives us a headroom of about 70 million or so. That means that we could afford, say, Baleba, 70 million. You could afford, and let's just say you put that deal out over 6 to 7 years, maybe 4 to 5 years, a couple of million a year, 15 million a year. Maybe you put a big chunk down now. That 65 is going to go a long way. But if you look at the Q1 results, we lost money. The end of year. And if you look at a Q1, we actually lost. So if you look at the EBITDA, we actually lost £8 million. My question here is this: 65 mil. Yes, we've made a loss. Where do we get the money from? Now, the squad cost ruling means that we could actually now pump in money to the club by some sort of means. PSR no longer exists. So this club has no excuses. Sadly, if there is no money in this club, it doesn't matter. You could spend £300 million. If you don't have the money, you don't do the signings. So if you look at the couple of things here, you've got a price that I don't think that we're willing to pay. He's at the AFCON. Look, it takes us weeks to do a deal. We've got a month. How are we going to do this deal in a month? We spend 6-7 weeks trying to do a deal. How are we going to get this deal done in a month? He's at the AFCON, is to say he's there for another week or two. It gives us 3 weeks to do a deal. It's just not going to happen. So look, Baleba, you're going to get bombarded. You're going to get the bigger channels are going to bombard you with this shit. They're going to, but if you do the math, that how long it takes us to sign a player, the money, I'm not saying it's not going to be worth it, but we're not going to do it at that price. And the money's not there. Look, the money is there, but we're just not going to spend the money. So no, I'm adamant, and I will die on this hill. We will not do business in this window unless we can get a loan deal. Let me go through some of your comments, because that's what we do on here. I will go through your comments. I'm not going to read that about Arsenal. Okay, so Baleba is a waste of money. Says no. CR7 is a legend. I agree, but Cantona was better. Exactly. Baleba is playing incredibly well at the AFCON. And Niche, I think it's because Baleba's head's been turned. Now, I've got no doubt now that he wants to come to this club. And if we were an ambitious club, we would go and get him now. We're not. We're a club run by a businessman. We are now a business. We will now do business in the summer because of the accounts. We've done the business in this financial year. Unless a Xerxes is sold, unless a Mona goes out on loan, I don't see how we bring in another player. Bart says, I can see Anderson choosing Liverpool over any other club. So try to get 2 CMs, one young gun and someone like Xhaka. It sounds mental, right? But I semi agree with you. Not Xhaka. Look, we've got Casemiro, right? We need to build a squad, right? I've got no problem in signing a first choice CM, but then we need to litter our squad with basically some squad players. So you've got the Fletchers who are coming through, and look, I hope that we can get those into the team. And I've got no problem in signing a slightly older midfielder, but they have to have legs. I'm not talking about signing somebody who's 34. I'm talking signing somebody for that experience, 31. Casemiro, in my opinion, now is over that. Look, Casemiro is still doing a job, and I take it back. The some of the things that I've said, Casemiro is still doing a job. But look, by comparison, if you actually put Casemiro is looking good because the midfielders in this club are so bad. If you put Casemiro in any of the top 3 sides, he's going to look awful. But look, doing the job. But where I agree with you is I've got no problem in bringing an experience. So what I really want is I would love. Look, we need 2 starting centre midfielders. That's a fact. We've never replaced Carrick, never replaced King. If we could get 2 first teamers and supplement them with someone older and some younger players, fantastic. I just don't think that that's going to happen. His overrated player who's been rubbish this season, he's down tools. He gets his move to us, says it, Niche fan. It's why we shouldn't buy him, Niche. 80 million is a good deal. I don't think it is. Not for me. Look, if Baleba, and that's another good point, right? If Baleba has a good AFCON, there is no way Brighton are going to sell him in this window. There is absolutely zero way. The only way that we sign him is if he basically says to Brighton, I'm not going to play anymore. I want to move. And he forces that move. I don't want a player like that. I do not want a player who forces the move and downs tools. Because what then happens if he gets to 26, Madrid come calling. So look, I want him, but I don't want him in a manner that's going to sour our relationships. So look, I want it done in the correct way. Let's see what happens. As he would do the same to us when he's exactly that. I do agree. Barry Morgan says, can we just accept that January will be quiet? I can live with that personally, as much as I'd love a couple of signings. The obsession with signings is definitely a fever. And look, Barry, I'm with you, my friend. Look, I the only difference is necessity. I believe if we want to finish top 4, and I've predicted we finish between 8th and 10th, and I remain in that position, right? But I fully accept this season is so competitive between the rest of the clubs. Top 3, in my view, is lockdown. You may get Villa dropping back slightly because I don't necessarily think that European and they've got the squad. But let's see. I think it's basically the race to 4th, 5th, 6th. Whether I like it or not, we at the moment are in that. If we want to maintain that with a possibility of 4th, which I don't believe that we will do, but we're going to get this, we have to sign a player. So Barry, look, for me, I just don't want a signing for no reason. I think a necessity signing that we have to get, but I don't think that we will. You know, I've been adamant on here, and if you watch the videos on here, I'm not like everybody else. I'm adamant that the only players that we sign is a Gallagher on loan. But there is a story today where I don't even think that will happen. LFC20 says that Liverpool might be back. Look, Liverpool are back. Liverpool, again, whilst all of your channels were out there saying that Klopp needs to be sacked, some of us on here, not me, have been saying that Liverpool are done, you know, Klopp is crap. I've always maintained Liverpool have got too many good players not to form some sort of defence. So I'm not surprised. Liverpool, I think, are now on some sort of run. I don't think that form is going to come back. You may get games where you might lose, but I've maintained the whole of this season Liverpool will come back. You've got too many good players not to do something. Victor said, am I English? Yes. Can you settle Man United's debt instead of adopting him? Completely disagree. We're living in a world where money is everything, and he just wants to secure his future before potentially getting injured. Mamadou says, how are you doing? I feel something wrong. I can see stories. Said, Someone from Cameroon passed away. Is that true? I don't know, my friend. The thing is, for the summer, because of the World Cup, it will even be harder to get our main tungsten. Scott, spot on. We take long enough to do deals as it is. How are we going to get deals done? Baleba has been done on purpose because we know that we can get him. If you read the Fergie book, right? So I read Ferguson's book, right? And one of the things that he said in it was really, really resonated with me. One of the things that he said in the book was he loved going head to head with Madrid, Arsenal, Chelsea to sign a player. He would go and try to get these deals done. He would have he wouldn't care. He would love the challenge of trying to beat those clubs to a player. Now, whether or not we're in with a shout, this club is so shit scared of trying to get players. Why aren't we going to Brighton and saying to them, we want your player, we respect you as a club, we know you want a fair price, we're going to get this player. We want him now. We're going all out to get your player. Because we are not that club. Beppo says, I'm not going, no, I'm not reading Arsenal stuff. He's like the Terminator at Yafcon. Gallagher or Neves says, Miss Bunny, I don't think it's a case of Gallagher or the Neves, and I will come on to the Neves stuff next. Gallagher, for me, if we can do that deal on loan, because we've already worked on that deal, Gallagher for me would be the one. You look like a person whose favourite team was once at the top of the world and now they're in the mud. Oh yes, hashtag United fan, says Joel. I'm an anti-United fan. All fans are welcome here. Yes, you are. Glory, glory, Man United. Baleba, Mazraoui, Cunha, chef's kiss. As long as you respect. United is good team as per 2008. If you disrespectful exactly, then you better be ready. Get your ass handed to you by me or Mark or Dino. Imagine the strength and energy of Baleba and Mazraoui. Baleba is a must in Jan. If United want to win, they should purchase Mbappe, Lamine Yamal, Vinny, Rafinha, and Messi. Ineos could sponsor Old Trafford for 20 million a year. There's another. Exactly. In the summer, we need to do our business early because with the World Cup, players leaving for the country will make it hard to get them. Baleba is not even good this season. I don't know if he would be good at United. Mr. Mellon, I think you make a good point. We need players with a mentality, right? I'd rather Baleba want to come to us. If Baleba, let's just say he did his job and he still played amazing, Brighton would have to drop their price if Baleba said, look, I'm going to join him. It's a club that I want to join. I'm not going to. The reason why the price was so high is because Brighton were hoping for a bidding war, right? That's why they didn't put in a price. The bidding war is just it will not happen now. So what that basically means is that the 105 will probably drop down to 80 million, right? I would rather go and sign a top class midfield player who went to Brighton, got his head down, the mentality was there. I'd rather go and sign a Baleba at 80 million who's had a fantastic season rather than a Baleba at 65 whose head's dropped. But we'll see. For United to win, we need the Glazers to sell. I do agree. Remit says, subscribers, please. Thanks, mate. Forget Wharton and Anderson. We can't get them. Baleba is realistic. I'm hearing we're getting Diamonde. We're basically getting all the best African players. Again, look, These are summer deals. These are they are. There were 24 people on the stream and only 8 have liked. Thanks, Victor. Too many African players is not good because suddenly we struggle when they go to African. And I agree with you. I don't get the obsession with African players. Not because it's not a xenophobic thing, right? It's basically if you have too many players from a nation, Mr. Mellon is correct. Look, I want to sign the best players, but we need a mixture of different players. Do you think United will finish in the top 10? Look, I've predicted we'll finish between 8th and 10th. Scott says 5th. What's your opinion? That's your opinion, yeah, exactly. JB, I love you, but they will sell him because his agent has told him to protect himself in the Prem. AFCON is an exception. He has to roll the dice for his nation. Look, I look. They don't have to sell, and look. Whilst I agree, look, that's your view. We've been linked to Kone, we've been linked to Stiller, Anderson, Monday. From a logical perspective, we're not going to get those players. So, well, from a logical perspective, 4 players do not go into 2 positions. So, let's see. We should be fighting for top 4, if not at least European tournament. We are not Spurs. That will be in the top 10. Agree with you, Mr. Mellon. Look, I always say this on here. I demand we finish first every single season. I demand the Champions League. I demand we win something. Not because I'm dumb, because we need to keep standards. Lippy says, hi, hello. Our next 4 games should all be wins. Scott, mate, how many times have we said that on here? These games, Scott, you're absolutely right. Let's see. I said you finish between 11th and 15th at the start of the season. I'm sticking to this. And look, that's your view. That's your view. No problem in that. I between 8th and 10th, unless we have an absolute shitty end of the season. I don't think we've finished between 11th and 15th. We're getting 6th with Baleba in Jan. Niche fan. Mate, I love you, buddy, Niche, but Baleba is not coming. I think as a fan base, to avoid disappointment, if you look at historically, we don't do business in this window. Brighton are not going to sell Baleba for any less than £80 million. We can't do this deal in a month. He's not coming, mate. Top 10 is a good season. After that season, not winning back-to-back. Yeah, I meant slot. Liverpool are back. If we want to fight for a European tournament next season, we need to sign at CM this Jan, but I don't think Baleba will be the solution. He's poor this season. I agree with you. I absolutely fundamentally think if we want to finish 4th, 5th, 6th, that's what we need. We need a player who can replace Casemiro. I agree with you. Which team do you support? Says Mikey. Mate, yeah. I'll be happy. I'll happily dust off the boots. Can play left and right and drink as much as George Best. I'll make him look like an amateur in that department. Sir Jackie legend. No one said we'll finish above City, Arsenal, Villa. I think we can get top 5. Name says hi. Hello, my friend. It's only a matter of time until an African team wins the World Cup. We're collecting all the best African players. But the problem with that, niche fan, is that you need a team. Look, if an African team did win, fantastic. But I don't think they will, because I don't think they've got they've got a full team that can compete with like a Spain. Chelsea and Liverpool are better team. Again, mate, you're Chelsea. I disagree on that one. Liverpool are, but look, mate, it's you're not going to get a disagreement from me because we're shit. Brighton has to sell because he's down tools. They may be better, but we'll finish above them. Best United can hope for this season is 6th. We'll give the manager credit if he does better than that. And look, I agree with you. I think that we finish between 8th and 10th. I think the biggest place, the biggest position that we can finish is 6th. He's desperate to come to us. Why would he play amazingly well for Brighton? But niche fan, mate, look, he needs to play well for his club because I don't want a player who's willing to down tools. And look, Nish, think about this. If Baleba is willing to down tools, right, to get a move, what happens if we're crap and we remain crap until he's 26? He becomes this amazing player and like a Bayern come in for him, he will down tools again. I don't want a player who's prepared to down tools to get a move. I don't. I can see Anderson choosing City. Look, Hyprin, don't stop believing these fucking channels. Look, I'm not going to name names. They're bigger than us. They're probably the biggest channel there. Anderson is not coming. Unless we suddenly go and win a league, which is not going to happen this season, unless we get to the Champions League, there is no chance Anderson is coming to us. Please, I beg you, please stop believing all these fucking channels who put Anderson on their thumbnail. This is what I purposefully don't put him on there, is because he's not coming. There's no doubt in my mind. He's going to City, he's going to Madrid, he's going to Bayern, he's going to Liverpool. Anderson, we need to stop as a fan base believing this shit because Anderson is not coming. 2K17 says, I would like United to still try and go for Stiller in Jan. I'd love us to do it. I would love us to do it. It's not going to happen. Is Elise joining Man City? As long as City can stump up 120 million quid, I don't see. I bet you anything, JB, that Baleba's coming in January. Indicator basically said as much. Look, Niche, Indicator talk through their arse. Indicator got one thing right in their whole life. They said Baleba was going to come in the summer, £105 million. He's not coming. I will stand on that. Like, if we were dealing with a West Ham, say, I think West Ham would do the deal. Brighton are not going to sell him unless we stump up 80 million quid. We're not going to do it. Look, I will happily take the L, right? If you're a right niche fan, I will applaud you. I would applaud this club. Because if we go and sign our first choice, whether or not we think he's good or bad, all right, if we go and get a first choice centre midfielder, I would applaud the club. Because it means that we've changed. It means that we have changed the strategy. We're a serious club. He's not coming, mate. Ornstein, Jacobs, and Romano have all said we're in talks. Look, we are in talks. We've been in talks just because we're in talks. But if you look at what Fabrizio has said, Nish, and I will tell you what Fabrizio has said. And these are the words of Fabrizio in the last couple of hours. And these are not my words, these are his words. A January move is unlikely, but if Brighton open the door, United are there. Those are his words. January move unlikely. Who are you going to believe? Romano or Indicala? When we're talking about this, and look, I will give Fabrizio props. If Fabrizio said we're in talks and a move is out there, I'd come on here and I'd say to you, it's possible. Don't be like the other channels out there. Fabrizio Romano, to go back to what you've said, Fabrizio Romano has said a January move is unlikely, but if the door is opened, United are going to be there. Mate, those are his words. Indicator is a pile of shit. Do you agree that Rodgers would be too much for United last week? Sorry, I told you. Look, you're right, mate. It was brilliant. United had zero clue. Aston Villa, I think they've equalled their record since, 1918? 1936? Aston Villa are having a fantastic season. But look, niche fan, look, mate, niche fan, I respect the opinion, mate. Would you have wanted Isaac? I would have down tools. Would you have wanted Isaac? No. Isaac, no. The way that Isaac behaved is disgusting. I would not have wanted him. No. People can have this view, right? And I fully respect that we all have different views on what we find acceptable, right? I've got no problem in people accepting people who down tools. No problem at all. If you're comfortable with a player who downs tools and doesn't play as well because he wants to come to your club, I've got no problem in people who accept that. I don't accept that. For me, there is a way to do things, right? Because if you do that, you burn your bridges with that club. And what happens when a better club or a more successful club comes in for that player? He will do the same to you. If you look at players, there's a pattern. There are certain players that will continually do that to clubs. So look, I've got no problem in people who have an opinion of they will happily accept a player who will cause issues, moan, whinge, bitch to leave a club, right? That's not how I am as a person. I believe that you do things in the correct way. It's all about respect, because you never know when another club will when you want a player from the same club, they're not going to do business with you. So look, for me, everything in life is all about respect. Baleba wants to come to us. I'm comfortable with that. I think it means that Brighton will have to drop their price, but I want to do things in the correct way because you then get a reputation. SA says hello. Barry says the channel here is growing to be fair. It's about time that someone called out the TUS on this world for absolute piss poor. They spout day in, day out. Look, I don't like to call people out, right? But I'm sick and fucking tired. I'm sick and I'm tired. And the reason why I'm tired of it is because you've got it spins a fan base. The rhetoric behind it is they can put out so many different things because they hide it behind news. We've got so many different people who have these different views. In the morning, it's one view. In the evening, it's a different view. There is no consistency, No consistency at all. You said he was defo coming the other day. I never said that, mate. Gifted Gaz, I never said that. You're confusing me with a different channel. Look, go back over the videos. The only time I said that he was coming was back in August. I've remained, and if you listen to me, Gaz, I've said the only signings that we're going to do is a Gallagher on loan or nothing. And if you go back and you look at the videos that I've done, I've not Gifted Gaz, you're confusing me with another channel. Exactly. You guys need a better striker or winger, Alvarez or Rafael. What did I miss? Brown Knight. I love it. My philosophy is if they can down tools for a previous club, they can and most probably will do it to us. I do agree with you. If you're going, Niche Fan says, if you're going into work every day and working 10 times better than a co-worker who is on 5 times more, why would you give your best knowing it's their right mind? Look, it's all about, and I get that. I do. I get that completely. But it's all about what you do as a person, right? You can moan, bitch, and whinge, right? You can moan and whinge about your job, right? All that's going to happen. Let's just say this, right? I've had plenty of jobs, right? I've had tons of jobs. If you don't like it, you can leave, right? So that goes to your point. But I guarantee you, if you go to a new place of work and you tell them that you weren't going to get paid enough, and you left because they didn't appreciate you, and you left and you moaned and you whinged and you bitched, and that's why you left, I guarantee you will not be employed by the next person, because they'll think that you'll moan and whinge if you don't get a salary or you don't get your sort of own way. If you're not getting paid right and you leave, you don't cause a fuss and you go to another job and you do it the right way, it's all good. So look, I'm of the opinion, and this is just my opinion, Niche Fan, I'm not disrespecting your opinion. That's how you think, and that is perfectly fine. I'm of the opinion, if you do things in the correct way, it is more respectful. I think it's better for everybody if you do things in the correct way. But look, that's just my opinion. Niche Fan says, so Brighton are taking the P, paying him 20k. And look, Niche Fan, they are. But the thing is on Niche, they want him to sign a contract. He's not prepared to sign a contract. Look, Brighton took a punt, right? He's become a Premier League proven player. You can argue up until this point, right? But that's the risk you take, right? If Baleba was shit, look, 20 grand a week is a ridiculous sum of money, right? But that is the chance that you take, right? Is that Baleba signed a contract. Brighton didn't know he was going to be good, so they took a chance on him, right? But then from a Brighton perspective, the risk to you is, if this player then suddenly becomes good, do you try to get him to sign a contract or will he leave? So the initial risk that they took to sign this player, he was probably earning like £1,000 a week, right? But they took the risk. But the flip side of that is now that he's not going to sign a deal. So I do agree with you. Compared to other players, it is a low wage. But at the time, Brighton had zero idea that this player was going to be that good. So look, it's Niche fan says Baleba surviving on peanuts compared to his real worth. Niche fan, mate, if you think 20k a week is peanuts, mate, I wish I could earn that. If you think 20 grand a week is peanuts, mate, but look, I'm not disagreeing in the world of football. That 20 grand a week compared to others is a lower amount. That's the contract he signed. Brighton have offered him a brand new contract, I think, on 80k a week. He signed a contract. Jay says, GGMU. Yes, I do agree with you. Barry says, I'm not convinced Baleba has down tools, to be honest. I just think he's reverted to his actual level and we dodged the bullet. Wharton, Anderson have the consistency of world-class players. And Barry, look, I think you make a good point there. Who's to say that he's not playing as the player that he is? Some players can have an amazing season, but you're right. World-class players have consistency. Right, Baleba at the moment isn't consistent. The mark of a true professional is to do your best until you can't be denied your dream move. CR7 in 2007 wanted to leave. Fergie asked him for one more year, and he was the GOAT. Exactly that. Compared to football, it's peanuts. Compared to us, it's not. Yeah, and look, I'm not disagreeing in terms of the amount of money compared to what people around him earn. But he signed a deal. Brighton took that chance. Brighton have now offered him an improved deal, but he doesn't want to sign it. Let me help you, JB. If you think 20 grand is peanuts, I'll have a handful of peanuts for breakfast. Exactly. 20k, exactly. Even 10, mate. Even 5k a week. But we agree. So look, let's get on. Let's move away. I think as a topic, I think it's a fantastic topic. But look, Baleba is not coming. Look, channels are now going to spam you, right? Unless there is something more substantial from Fabrizio. Right now, I'm going to go with exactly what I think. I'm going to go with the evidence that's there. We do not do business in this window. There is some money there, but we treat this club as a business. Well, not us. So we'll see. The next thing is Neves. So Neves, look, Ruben Neves, again, a couple of weeks ago was linked to us. 15 million. Scott says, off topic, is it cold down there? It is no northern cold. It is southern cold. Is it cold? It's a bit nippy, but I wouldn't describe it. Trust me, go into a place that's minus 15. Anything else is warm. So yeah, it's not warm, but it's not cold. Scott, mate, I bet you guys, you're gonna have a ton of snow, minus 10. Down here it's just not cold. What the hell is he trying to say? Go, mate, go. Ruben Neves to MUFC. Look, I'll quickly go through this, right? So Neves, we were linked to him. Now Fabrizio has come out and said this as well. Neves are in contact with his agent, but they've spoken about several players. Still have a jumper on, no hat or gloves on. Still have a jumper on, no hat or gloves. Mate, Scott, I would expect you to be out in shorts, a t-shirt. So Neves, look, let's just put this to bed as well. Neves, I think as a signing, as a squad player, I think would be good. But look, we're gonna get linked to every single player, right? Scott says, I've got my sunglasses on. I reckon you've got a glasses on, t-shirt, shorts, sandals. So look, Neves again. Look, as Fabrizio has basically said on this. Look, United are in contact with his agent. Spoke about several players, not necessarily spoken about him. Again, unless we change the strategy, we're going to get linked to everybody and his dog. Neves, I don't think he's going to come. I'll be surprised. Fabrizio again. Look, as confirmed it, we are basically beachwear JB until it snows. He's one of those players that we get linked to. You look at like a Schneider. We got linked to a Schneider every single summer for about 6 years. Neves is going to be one of those players. Look, he's going to be available for a decent price. I don't think he comes to us. So look, I'm going to put that to bed now. Neves, I don't believe is going to come. Now, let's go. So Fabrizio also on Anderson, Nikarutsu, good afternoon JB, and everyone. Hope Santa was good. Pool out in the garden, sunbathing weather, JB. I reckon you've got the paddling pool out. Crap me up. So Anderson, Fabrizio, his update is that this. He's United's top target. That's it. That's basically it. So there's no point in me putting Anderson on a thumbnail. I refuse to, because Fabrizio's update on it is he is a top target. I mean, he's City's top target, Liverpool's target, probably a Bayern's target. He's not coming. Scott says it's 4 degrees, still warm. That's for winter up north. Mate, you know, I reckon even when it's about -4, Scott, I reckon you're out there, mate. You're out there, shorts, t-shirt, suntan lotion. So look, it's really quite easy. I will go on to one more stuff, and then I wanted to talk about the game. I wanted to talk about the 1-0 win, and then we can talk about that. Anderson would be brilliant signing, but we can't compete with the other clubs who have cash to burn. Agree with you completely. So I've said consistently on here that my opinion is 1 year got to -14. Bloody hell. I question, Scott, at that point, if it's if it goes into a minus, are you a Husky? Because so it was -10. I went on a ride, and for the Huskies it was still warm. So the Huskies kind of like it about -15. I think Scott is a human Husky. So I've been saying this. And Nikarutsu, we can go on that as well, because I wanted to talk about that. I didn't come on yesterday to follow up on that. I've watched the game back, and I've got plenty of things to say on that. So I've said for the longest time that this window for me is going to be nothing or a Gallagher on loan, because that is exactly what this club will do. Now, Atletico have come out whereby they basically want a price for him. There's no purchase price. Now, the asking price is about £28 million, 2027. I don't think that we do this deal. I think at that price, look, as a squad player, I think that I would do the deal. I would do that deal. I will still. I'll go back slightly and I will retract what I just said there. I think as a squad player, if we could do a loan to buy, you are so bad. I don't care. If you don't like me, you don't enjoy the channel. If you think I'm bad, you don't enjoy the channel, piss off. There are plenty of people that seemingly like the channel. Well then, why kid? If you're going to say that I'm bad, that is not a joke. That is not banter, right? Bantering is something else. Coming onto a channel and saying the host is bad is not a joke. So we don't mind banter. If you want to come on here and banter, that is not banter. If you're rude, I find that incredibly rude, then the chat will deal with you. So I'm not responding to you now because you're rude. So look, Gallagher, I would do the deal. I know he's not a fashionable. I know he's not a signing that people would necessarily want. But look, we need to build the squad out with Premier League proven, with players. Look, he's a player that's played in the Champions League. He's a player that doesn't play every single game. He's a decent player. I think we need to build out this squad with players the same as that. Do I think we would do the deal? I think we would, if we can get this as a loan to buy, I think that we will possibly do the deal. I am still adamant on this. It's a Gallagher or that's it. But look, let's see. Let me go through the chat. And then I want to talk about the Newcastle game. Nick Anderson would be brilliant, exactly, but we can't compete. He is a top target for most clubs. 1 year it's got to minus 14, and it's still not that cold for me. Human Husky, he says I'm part Eskimo. Sunderland 27, Palace 26, Spurs 22, Leeds on 19. Quick one, Leeds or Sunderland. Look, being a United fan, I can't pick Leeds, right? I just can't do it. But look, respect to clubs. Sunderland, for me, I think would probably be the one I would like to see do well. Look, I don't want to see any club do poorly, but Sunderland for me would be the one. We're on 29 with a goal difference of +4. What about the Huskies' pause though? I don't know, mate. Got this image of Scott running around on all fours, howling at the moon whilst wearing a Parker jacket. Brownheart says, I hope they both lose tonight. I guarantee Baleba comes in Jan 100%. Look, niche fan, I hope you're right, mate. Look, niche fan, I hope we do some business. Right, niche fan. But I disagree. Disagree completely. Brighton are gonna want £80 million. Where do we get that from? JB in 2013 it got to -17. Jesus Christ. Sorry, it is too late. Sorry seems to be the hardest word. Exactly. Barry says, the madness of people not rating Gallagher is hilarious. He's immediately improves our team. In all fairness, he's not like he's just a stopgap. He's far more than that. He's a step up, not sideways. I agree with you, Barry. I would get him. I would get him as a squad player, right? And when I say a squad player, I don't mean somebody that comes in and doesn't play. I mean somebody that actually comes in and pushes the first teamers. I agree. If he comes into the squad now, he improves the squad. I would take him all day. And at £26 million ish, 26.5, that's a bargain all day long. So I would happily take that signing. I want Baleba. Dina says, have to be realistic. Anderson, most of the big clubs will be cycling him and would love him, but I just cannot see. Look, Dino, we're not getting him. I will be on that all day long. Like, you should know me by now. When I've made up my mind, unless there's evidence to suggest something else, I am on that train. I'm on the Anderson is not going to come. Anderson did well against us. Anderson dominated us. Anderson pulled the strings. Anderson is a fantastic player. Look, should we be in that race? Yes. Will we be in that race? Yes. But will we get the player? No. So look, I wanted to move to the Newcastle game. Now, we've not spoken about this on here. Now, I know, again, I'm not going to mention names. I always get sent stuff. And the scary thing for me is this. Look, a win is a win, right? 3 points. It's fantastic, right? We played well in spells. We played fantastic stuff. Some of the stuff that we played in that game is some of the best stuff that we've played all season. It's still patchy. Let me get through some of these chats. So, last thing on Gallagher, he'd be a Darren Fletcher, someone who carries the load when others are out, but wouldn't ever look out of place. Agree, Barry. I am all over the signing. If it's a good price, all over the signing, mate. Agreed with you. Neymar is available as a free agent. Let's get him and give him 150 grand a week. Nah. Niche fan, mate. Look, again, respect the opinion. When are we going to move away from these sorts of signings? Neymar is done. I don't want Neymar anywhere near this club. Neymar would be the deal that it wouldn't surprise me that happened. Ramos, Neymar, I don't want them anywhere near this club. We need to stop doing those signings. So for me, look, he's only 33. Niche fan, no, not a chance. A 33-year-old Neymar, no. What's Neymar going to add to the conversation? Neymar will not add anything to this club. Neymar will spend more time with Luke Shaw. Well, Luke Shaw's playing now. He will spend more time with Mount than he will playing. Mate, Nice, come on, mate. Imagine, nah, not for me. Not for me. So look, Newcastle. Look, I will start off on the positive things. So the positive things for me on that game were, look, we won the game. I thought in patches, we played some of the best stuff that we've played. The Fletchers came on, so look, I absolutely love the fact that the Fletcher, like the Fletchers have played. You know, to some people that's not a big thing, but look, it goes to show that these previous players' sons, you know, and not just because they're previous players, but we need mentalities of previous players. Fergie used to look at players' dads and bring in these sorts of players. Did Tyler come on? No, Tyler didn't come on. Did Tyler come on? Tyler Fredrickson? Yes, he did actually. I'm lying. Yeah. So look, but what I mean is, look, Jack Fletcher came on in this game, and then in the previous game, the other Fletcher played, right. But it's nice to see these young players, and again, not all of them come on in the same game, but it's nice to see them playing, right? So look, the positives are, whether or not it's due because we have to, Malacia is back. Rob Taff, legend, and I will get on to the Malacia thing. You've got Tyler Fredrickson as well, I think, so he played as well. So look, positives wise are those. Negatives. Look, the fact that Malacia played is a joke. It goes to show, in my opinion, what this club is. Malacia, I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he's back, right? I'm pleased he's back. Why is Malacia getting into this squad? Part of the bomb squad, his contract is up. Why are we having to bring on a Malacia? The guy is done. But yet, because of the lack of ambition, the lack of quality, the lack of depth, we're having to bring on a player who should have been removed probably last season. The reason why he wasn't moved on is because we couldn't do the deal. So we're fucking stuck again with these players, right? He replaced, I think, didn't he replace Luke Shaw? Another player that shouldn't be here. We're having to suffer the likes of a Luke Shaw, a Malacia. Mason Mount got off again because he's injured again. Like, the one thing about that game that pissed me off so much is we've got these players who are still at this club who shouldn't be here. Casemiro, you know, and again, whilst I agree he's been okay this season, Casemiro's walking into the side. So we've got a Malacia, a Luke Shaw, Mason Mount. And look, you know, the positives are a win and some young players came on. We played some decent stuff. That was in patches. But nothing else has changed. This is the most concerning thing for me, is we're still inconsistent. We're still patchy. Second half, we were dominated. So, you know, look, I get, you know, people who say that was a good game, and we should just be positive. We should just be happy. No. Because we've seen this time and time again. Look, Newcastle, if they could actually finish, they would have been out. They basically, I think, probably would have scored 2 or 3 goals. Second half, we were dreadful. And again, probably for the first time in a very, very long time, I don't blame the players. Second half, I do not blame the players. Not only are we a patchy team that I don't think we've had an entire game other than the Arsenal game where we played good the whole way through. We are still patchy. I'm still concerned. We're still inconsistent. We either can look extremely good or we look crap. Like, I don't think we played worse than when our AFCON players are here. Bruno Fernandes not being in this side would have made no difference in this game. We did not play worse because of Fernandes wasn't in this team. I actually think that we played better in certain parts than when he plays. And look, I'm not having a pop at him. We were terrible. Second half, terrible. Then we've then got a manager who at home is so negative at times, it is unreal. You go from a 4-3-3, effectively, where you're playing good stuff, and instead of going to win the game, instead of saying, look, we're not going to settle on a 1-0, we're going to go for it. We now have a problem whereby the squad depth is shockingly bad. We've got players who are, who are, when they come back, we know their heads will drop. We don't play well for an entire game. And now we've got a coach who is so negative, he would rather protect a 1-0 lead, rather than go for the jugular. Now, I know the reason why he is because it's survival football. He's doing what Ten Hag did. He knows he doesn't have the players, so he's going into Ten Hag mode. You can clearly see the conference after he comes out, basically tells the media, look, Kobe Mainoo's out. We played a 4-3-3. What more do you want? Amorim is going against his principles. Now, one of the things that I did say, that what I would do and what I would expect from him is if he went against everything that he believed and played a 4-3-3 and said, look, I'm going to play this system against everything that I believe is right. Well, whether or not he is right, principles in his mind dictate. And I admire that. I absolutely admire that the first half he went against the principles. But then second half, he reverted back. And I don't know how Amorim now recovers. I don't know how Amorim can go from a 4-3-3 back to a back three. Amorim will go back to a back three. Amorim will put Fernandes back in that team. I don't know right now, and I'm going to ask you the question. Will Amorim go back to a back three? How does Amorim now justify to the fans of going to play a back three? Because I think now what he's done, instead of sticking to the principles, he's now shown fans a 4-3-3, and he's won with a 4-3-3. How can he now go back to a back three? He's not going to be happy. If Amorim plays a 4-3-3, I will respect the fact that Amorim has gone to a 4-3-3, but Amorim needed to pick a side. Either stick with your back three or go to a 4-3-3 and play it for the rest of the season. I don't see now how we can go to a back three. He has to now, I think, play a 4-3-3, but Amorim won't. He will go back to a back three, and I think now this could be worse. I think that the Amorim out brigade, this could be worse, because if we go back to a back three, look, what we saw with a 4-3-3, the reason why we saw a better performance with a 4-3-3 is because we've got low IQ players who are, who are used to playing a 4-3-3, who are used to not having to really think about it. A back three and a more complex formation, these players can't do. So these players were more than comfortable, happy playing a 4-3-3 because it's instinct. They know it. And I don't know for the life of me now, after seeing what some of the fans saw, after switching back to a back three, we got absolutely annihilated. How Amrin can now go back to a 5-3-2 without more fans getting on his back. Question, and you know, let's see what you guys think. Liverpool, yeah, we don't talk bin dippers on this channel, exactly. I would rather have 11 MLCs instead of Baleba. Disagree. I agree with the attitude potentially, but let's see. Dina says positives: we won, youth getting a chance, attacking players and starting to gel. The negatives: we score, we sit back and progressively get worse. Players that shouldn't be here anymore. Dino, mate, look, this is what we do. Is we start off games well and we progressively get worse and worse and worse and worse. And look, we're going to see this. You know, I fully expect us to beat Wolves at home. I fully expect us to beat them, but nothing surprises me with this team. You know, you're right. We're playing. Look, the problem that I find is this: whenever we win, the automatic response is we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. People don't look at the second half. And look, I fully appreciate the history books will say that we won a game. Newcastle are inconsistent, but I cannot say any more than the second half. We were fucking annihilated. Like, we were so bad, but people are not going. The problem is that the reason why people need to take that on board is because the expectation now is we're going to go on a run again. People need to realise where we are. This is not a negativity. This is a realistic. This is real. This club has to back this manager, has to back him with players in this window. If you're not going to back him because he plays a specialist way, he's not going to play a 4-3-3 because he's just not going to. Back him or sack him. Like, it's simple as that. Towell is not even good. He needs to be removed, and so does Dalot, Shaw, Bruno, Casemiro, and Rashford. Neymar is in contact with CR7. CR7's nah, doesn't matter, mate. Doesn't matter. 100% we need to reinforce in January. A good 45 minutes in a bad 40. And Dino, mate, I don't even think that we were consistent for the first half. I think we played in patches, and I don't even think that we were good. I don't reckon we'll sign more than one player in Jan. I think the only players that will sign will be a Gallagher on loan, a loan to buy, unless we go and get a cheap deal. It's all about bargain basement, Bobby, in my view. It's all about bargain basement. And if we can get a loan, a bargain sign, then potentially, but other than that, that's it, my friend. Would you rather have a good start and a bad finish, or a bad start and a good finish? I'd rather have to be fair, I'd rather be consistent. I think I'd rather have a good start, get a couple of goals, and a bad finish. Because if you start, I would rather be defending the game rather than trying to chase the game. So I would much prefer to have a good start, score goals, and then defending a lead, because I think it's easy to I think it's easier to defend a lead than chase a lead. So in that scenario, I'd much rather have a good start, but I'd rather be consistent. We had to abandon his system to injuries, then he would decide to park the bus. Agree completely. When we sit back and invite pressure, for me, it's not the place, it's tactical decision. I'll blame the manager. And look, Dino, agree with you. The second half was not on the players. For the first time in a long time, Amrin was responsible for that half. You're at home. How can you invite pressure at home? You are the home team. Newcastle looked like the home team. The second half by Amrin was a fucking disgrace. To be fair, Shesko and Delo came close to making it 3-0. They did, but they didn't. I don't know where do we go from here. Shesko needs time. I do agree. Just talking him a while to get you. Just taking him a while to get you used to the Premiership. Tom says, "Hey man, I hope you're well." Tom, mate, I hope you are doing extremely well, my friend. Tom says, just to weigh in my view, there are teams in this league with less talented players that are performing much better. I don't buy this idea of Amrin not having the players. And Tom, I think that's a valid point, right? I think my only comment on that, and again, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. My only comment on that is this: I do agree with that. You've got teams who are doing well with lesser players because they're a better team together. Their attitude is right. This is a personal thing. I just don't want to be like any lower level team, right? If we want the best of the best in this system, we need better players. These players are okay. We need better players. And the reason why I think we need them is because we can't be content with 6th. We can't be content with 4th. We can't be content with 3rd. We have to be content with 1st. And if you look at Arsenal, Liverpool, City, they have got some world-class players. Villa are probably exception. But whilst I do agree, Tom, I do agree, we need better players. Because if you look at, say, for example, somebody like a Brighton, maybe a Leeds even, they've not got those fashionable players, but they are 8th, 6th, 8th. We need better players to compete. So look, whilst I do agree on paper we should have players to compete, in my view, we need we need quality players to compete. And look, that is just my humble view. I believe Shesko will be amazing. I do agree with you. We clearly struggle to be able to win with a 4-3-3, but we struggle. Sorry, we are clearly able to win games with a 4-3-3, but struggle with a 3-4-3. We should adapt as a club and continue a 4-3-3. And look, I don't disagree. If it was up to me, I want to see a 4-3-3. I want to see attacking football. I want to see a spine. I want to see depth. But I just don't believe whilst Amrin is here, Amrin is going to play a 4-3-3. But I want to see a 4-3-3. I like Shesko, but if you think if you used to swap VG and Shesko, it would work out better. Shesko is good at link-up play. VG works best on his own, which suits our system. Rob James says, Rashford, Sancho, Pogba ruined us for years. Too much player power. Our manager's times are changing. Now stick with it. Temishkin, legend, my friend. I hope you're doing it extremely well. Number 1 midfielder, Anderson, Kej, Schmidt, Ruben Neves, Xerxes, Kone, is also better than Dimonde or Adeyemi. Can we send Frank on loan to Villa for the rest of the season? At least he can get his haircut consistently. Average, says Sean. A win is a win, regardless of performance. Top half of the table. Rob James, mate, whilst I respect that opinion, I disagree. The reason why I disagree with it is because performance is key. Because if our performance isn't good, West Ham, Toffees, the Bournemouth game, right? You can argue, and we didn't win those games, right? You need performance to carry into those games. 8 times or 9 times out of 10, the 1-0 game that we won, if we played like that against anybody else, we would lose that game. It's sometimes not about the win, it's about the performance. Because I guarantee you, Rob, if we play like we've got Arsenal, City coming up, I guarantee you, if we have a performance the same as that, we will lose badly. So whilst I do agree a win is a win, and those 3 points are imperative, performance is so important because we're so inconsistent. And that's why we get a West Ham, the Toffees, Bournemouth. So look, whilst I do agree with you that 3 points is important, mate, I think performance is more important, because without that, we are inconsistent. Sean says, in it for the long here. Why am I here? I don't know, Tommy. Because of all the bins that have been dipped in. Baleba might sign, mate. It's just not. Look, I as it's been said on here, some of you think he will sign. I don't believe he will sign. West Ham sure would love Moyes back. Careful of what you wish for, Sean Tweed. Agree, mate. I agree. Be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what it's got until it's gone. David Moyes, for all of his faults, is a Premier League proven coach. Gyökeres is a 3-4-3 player. He would be used to the system, but it's not Šeško's fault. He's just played the system for a long time and has had success with it. Šeško just needs time. And look, I do agree with you. I think Šeško just needs time. I think, again, we talk about young players coming into this side, and I fully agree that Šeško, the price tag of him is extremely high, and people expect value for money, right? But Šeško is a young player. You know, we're not paying for the finished player. We're paying for potential. And we all talk about, and this is why I do feel sometimes as a fan base we are hypocrites on the basis that we're demanding young players come through. We're demanding a Kone plays. We are demanding an OB plays, right? But yet we won't give Šeško time. Šeško is a young player. No, he's not youth. But Šeško has no support, nobody to teach him the ropes. We demand young players play. Šeško is a young player, and we get on his back. So it is just. I feel sometimes, and then we've got people say a win is a win, and we must support these players. Whilst I do agree, but I believe it is selective support based on the game. There is no consistency, right? I'm consistent on here on the basis that I can't stand these players. Inconsistent players. I want Amarin in. I want a manager in, but I fully accept that Amarin is a very divisive figure, and I don't blame people for an Amorim out. I'm also consistent on I believe that we need to support youth players. I'm consistent on I can't stand this team. I still believe that we'll finish between 8th and 10th unless we get a signing. And I think the problem right now is that we're so inconsistent. And as Dino says there, the manager is just unsure. He's got a bunch of players. He's got a bunch of players that are not his players. And he's trying to make this work. You've got Glazers and the Ineos who are fucking scum. No time for them at all. They need to figure out. This Amorim and this side is the epitome of what this club is. No idea. Zero idea for me. Toxic. Zero idea. Are not in control. What is Amorim supposed to do? What are these players supposed to do? And what we have right now, and it is reflected in the performances, we have a big giant mess. Papu says, hi, hello my friend. For me, 1-0, 2-1 is a big 3 points for the club. Even if it's scrappy, I would take. And look, Scott, mate, if we scrap it, I'm not going against that. But I think performance is key. Because look, if we go into because we all know what we're going to get. We'll get Amorim come out and say, oh, we need to improve. We need to beat this team. We need to beat that team. We should have won. We defended well. And I can't stand that. I can't continue to listen to this same conference week in, week out. Amorim will more than happily call out the youth players. Doesn't call out the senior pros. And look, I don't care. A win is a win. But the problem for me is that if you want to beat teams, you need the performance to back it up as well. So look, as much as it's a win, I expect a Wolves win as well. But because of the performances that we have, I'm not confident that we can go to Leeds and beat Leeds. But look, Scott, if we scramble or win every game, I'll take it. I'll take it. But I don't think that is going to happen. Do you think United will sign any player in the January window? My opinion will remain the same. I believe we do a Gallagher on loan, a loan to buy, and that's it. Unless Ineos and the Glazers have a completely change of brain and we go against everything we've done for the last 7 years, I don't believe we will sign a player unless it's a cheap deal or a long deal. Nick Rucci says, I expect players to show up for both halves, not show up for one and then hide for the rest of the game. Performance give us confidence for the next game. And that's sort of where I'm at on it. Is that the reason why we're so inconsistent is that the performances are. So look, guys, on that note, I am going to go. Slightly longer show today. I should be back this evening. I will be doing what is the latest on Mount. So apparently Mason Mount felt a twinge, so they were being cautious with him. I don't know when the presser is out. I will see when that's out, and then I will come back on when that comes on as well. So I'll probably do a show. Let me find out when that is. I reckon it's probably today. I will or it could be tomorrow. But look, whenever that comes out, I will be back on. Nick Rich says, sorry, I was late for the show. Look, mate, there is no obligation to be here. Nick Rich, you are still a legend. But look, I will be back. I will definitely be back this evening. When I come back this evening, I will do a review of the Wolves game. So I will come on and again, we'll discuss that. We've spoken about Wolves before, but I will come back on and talk about that. Clark says, what's up, bro? Clark, legend, my friend. What's up, mate? Is that, look, we are talking about this team. We are trying to dispel myths. So look, another defeat for Wolves. Then says Sean. Look, Wolves haven't been doing that poorly. So I don't think we're going to get it our own way against Wolves, but we should do. Serves it. Edwards right says Sean. So look, one of the things I wanted to end with is this. Look, when it comes to the signings, all I'm going to say is this: manage your expectations. What country are you in? I'm from the United Kingdom. Wolves are the most consistent team. They are. All I'm going to say about the signings: don't get carried away. Use your logical brains. Look at what we've done before. Listen and actually read what Fabrizio has actually said. You know what JB is from the Northern Sentinel Island. Exactly. Consistently inconsistent. Exactly. Don't believe the spin. Do not believe the spin. People are drawn into the thumbnails. Do not believe the spin. Go with your own logical brains, because you guys will absolutely understand it first. Look at the financials. Look at what the clubs are. Look at where the clubs do. Please read my comments. It's Clark. I have, mate. What country are you from? I'm from the UK. JB is part Indian. Mate, I am. You know, I am, mate. You know, I am. So look, guys. Yeah, don't believe the spin. I don't know when the presser is. If the presser is today, I will come back on again. I will be back on tonight with the review of the Wolves game. And look, tonight will be an evening show, the first of a long time. And the evening shows are basically, you know, come in there with your views. I'll come in with a topic, and it's basically an open show. JV is a man of many things, but a legend. Thank you, Nikarutsu. Most of them are deluded, to be fair. At least this guy's realistic in saying that they'll finish around 10th. Thanks, mate. The tripod man says, Dino, look, I'm not going to say no to that. So look, guys, I will be read my comments, says Scott. His name is What a Long Dong. That, guys. I am never going to go against these, mate. You know, because you know, what can I say? Dino says JB is the legend. Again, guys, you know, I'm not going to dispel that myth. So you know, it's true. So look, guys, I will be back. Hopefully, be back this afternoon if the press conference is. If not, I will be back this evening for a late show, a classic late show where anything goes. Exactly. This community is a family. Get into this community. We are on this show. We are realistic. We're true. We don't do clickbait. And this channel is the best community out there, bar none. Why is first generation is underrated? Don't know, mate. But look, guys, I didn't forget you, Clark, at all, mate. Guys, you are all legends. Look, guys, we are getting close to 30,000, right? So we're pushing 29,000. If when we get to 30,000, JB was the trench man on the Normandy beach. Look, mate, I know I do look old, but I'm not that old. Sir, why are you not reading my comment? Mate, I've just read your comments and answered your question. I literally just read your comment. I've answered where I'm from. I've answered. I really have. I really have. Can you mind, sir, if I ask? I am 42, mate. I am 42 years old. No, I am a mature man. You know. So you know. Yeah. Ayuma says hi, hello. He's 10,000 years old. You know, I think I look good for 10,000. To be fair. So you know, could be worse, but I do look good for 10,000. So look, guys, I will be back this evening. So an antique. I've been called worse. I've been called worse. So look, evening show tonight. Anything goes. I will breeze a fossil. Thanks, mate. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that, and I'm going to give you the last word. I'm a fossil who will be back tonight. Bring in your opinions tonight on whatever topic that you wanna. I'm not even going to go into that, Dino. We need Victor Osimhen. Look, we do, but it's not good. So look, guys, bring that stuff in tonight. Tell me what you think that we need tonight. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So I will be back this evening, guys. You are legends. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I am JB. This is the United Devil channel. Absolute legends. And I will be back this evening. So take care. And I'll see you guys very, very soon.